Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and excited for everybody to be here on this Tuesday. My goodness, Schlegel, it's already October 29th. We got a couple of days left until November 1st, which is Friday. Penn State will be the first game in November. And Schlegel, as we remember this, what did Jim Truss always say about November?
Championships are won in November.
No, come on. You got to lay in the blind, dude. When I throw it out to you, November.
Oh, yeah.
Contenders.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sorry.
On,
yeah.
Man.
Or pretenders. Hey, listen, don't worry about it, man. Come on. He blew up. I won't even talk about Truss. Truss is crazy. He's the best.
He is. I don't know if he's crazy. He's the best.
He's
good.
He's crazy in a good way.
Crazy like a fox, maybe.
Exactly.
So one of the big overarching themes right now, Schlegel, that people are talking about.
What are
I
they
do a
talking
podcast with Berm and Ward, and it got a little gets a little squirrely sometimes. It's fun. We have a good time, but everybody's trying to screw down on this like nervous energy that's in the shoe, passion within the players. Zach Bourne was talking about it. And I said, like, guys can only be what they are. There's some guys that are naturally more introverted. There's some guys that are more extroverted. And then there's also like the confidence piece of like hesitation. Like, I want to see guys run around with their hair on fire, playing like this. Well, you have to be confident in what you're doing and feel that. Like, part of it is maybe afraid to make a mistake. And when you have like a bunch of guys on a team who are really good humans and like are really concerned about doing the right thing, sometimes there's a little paralysis by analysis where I don't want to make the mistake. And instead of just going and listen, go really hard and we'll figure it out later. So there's just a lot of tentacles to it. And like I said, Zach Bourne got into that, and it was it's a weird deal. But kind of your thoughts. I don't know if you even understand what you understand what I'm talking about. Like
I do.
There's like a little disconnect between the expectations of what talent should be, and like, it's not like an alpha thing. People want to get into it on X. I'm like, listen, this is a far too nuanced conversation to have in 240 characters. Like, that's not how it's going to work. So, like, come here to the show, check it out. We'll get it done. By the way, we have Bill Bender coming up after this. So we'll get into the broader picture, but I want to make sure that we really take care of this here in the first second. Maybe it spills over because that's what a lot of our tailgate talk questions will probably end up being about as well.
Yeah. No, so I will just start with this. There is always a fine line of chippiness on the field, right? Like, and I have talked about it with Truss and being able to be steady keel like he was never up and down, right? Like in the 2002 national championship run, they probably run 4 to 5 games in a 1-possession game. You're always like this, but then you also want to be able to play with emotion, but not emotion that leads to penalties. We saw that, I forget, like a couple years ago in the Michigan game, we're actually driving, going to be in really good field position.
Scott, we
had something, right? It was a lot of juice, and then boom, now you're out of field position and totally stalls the drive. So then there were people making comments about nobody came to IGB's defense when he got spit on. First off, that was on the far left hash line in the corner of the end zone. What do you expect your guys to do? First off, how do you going to know he even spit on him?
Like, hold on. Before you go any further, there's a couple examples of that because people looked at the IGB thing. They looked at the Cam Brown thing against Michigan. Was that in 21, I want to say? Yeah. Up there, he rips the guy's helmet off. They go back and forth. The receiver's grabbing his leg, and someone tweeted that at me. No one came up to his defense. I knew we were going to get our butt kicked. Like, so those are some of kind of the examples. Now continue to make your point.
Well, I'm just saying, like that one, like the one with Brown, like those guys are right there. Like what? Like go to his defense. I get it, right? And we did that too, Bob. But the one of IGB, like totally out of context. Like, what are you going to have guys run all the way across the field? Again, what do I like to see? I like to see guys playing fast, hard, and violent. When you are able to play fast, hard, and violent, that's because you alluded to, Bob, you know exactly what to do. So you play with confidence. We've talked all the time about communication. Whether you're right or wrong, communication allows you to play faster. So with all this stuff being said, how I look at things, and I even heard somebody told me, like, I thought Cody Simon would be better in his senior year. The guy had 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. He's been playing fantastic. Like, what are we watching? And guys can only do what they're coached to do too, right? So the ownership is not only on guys to execute, it's also on the coaches to develop and have the plan and make sure that they communicate the plan. That's why holistically you look at all things.
Said Was this a
No,
conversation you had with someone?
no. This is all stuff that I'm just seeing from our show or in the deal. So I'm just trying to answer some of these things. But here in a nutshell is in football, I always called it controlled chaos. I'm going to play as fast and as physical and as tough as I possibly can. Come downhill, I want to win my 1v1s. Like, that's what you want to see. I think the thing that we're all missing in this as a fan perspective is it's not offense, defense, special teams. It's collective. And I think going now into what are we in, going into week 10, right? Have we seen a complete game from Ohio State in all phases? That's a little bit of the concern when I look at it. Are they playing hard? I see guys playing hard 100% of the time. Guys aren't playing soft. Guys aren't taking plays off. Guys aren't turning around talking to the crowd on a jump ball. Like, guys are engaged. Guys are playing hard. Guys are playing fast. Okay? Now, but the other thing is, when you look at going to the second level and stuff like that, that is the scheme. If you look at the running game 2 weeks in a row, we've been beat in the rushing battle. Things have to get corrected. That's why you get paid to coach, right? Players have to execute 100%. So I view it as collectively, when do we get to see the Buckeyes play a full game? And I say that because Ryan alluded to it. After the game, he's like, we want to come out here and leave no doubt. We didn't do that. Then he went back and hit on the positives. I think the defense did what they needed to do today. We talked about pressure. We talked about impact plays. You had 13 tackles for loss. That's a lot. I would like to go back. I'm not a statistician, but go back in and see when we saw, like, Bob, you know what that is, man. 13 TFLs in a game is a lot. Yeah. So they did the things that they need to do offensively in the second half, and mainly the third quarter, because of the inefficiency of running the football. We lost the time possession battle, but when they needed to, the response from Will Howard and the offense was Nebraska scored, our turn, we scored, defense finished, we finished in the fourth quarter. That's a win. I'm also very different in the fact is this. I will always, and again, you're a homer, you know these guys 100%. I will always ride and die with the Buckeyes and who's ever's in that building. I'm never going to be one that's going to talk shit about anybody. But I'm just going to say, me looking at this game or the Buckeyes right now in 2024, when do we get to see a complete Ohio State football game that leaves no doubt? And guess what? You have no better opportunity than this Saturday in Unhappy Valley.
Yeah, and I think, you're talking about the complete game, and honestly, the divergence there, if you make the field goal before halftime, you go up 17-3. Instead, you miss it, Nebraska goes down, they kick a field goal, it's 14-6. It's a one-possession game then. You're getting the ball coming out. If you're able to go down there and then score at halftime up 17-3 post-half, then all of a sudden you're up big. But I just think, Schlegel, it's tough to put your finger on intangibles. It's really hard to measure them. And here's the one thing that people don't want to take into account. And there's a guy who has been riding all day on me during our show in the morning about how this is different, this is that. And I point out all these different things. I'm like, at the end of the day too, buddy, he's like, I've been watching Buckeye football since before you were born. I said, that's fine. I've been in the Woody 250 days a year for about the last 2 decades. So I feel like I have a pretty firm understanding of what type of players these are, what type of people they are, and what it's looked like since then. But also remember, generations change. The game has changed of how you interact with people. This isn't 1980 anymore. You can't grab guys by the face mask as a coach. And these guys have never been grabbed by a face mask. And guys, and this is college players everywhere. It's different. And so the way you communicate with them is different. The way you talk to them is different. Now, does that mean the expectations have to be less? No, it doesn't at all. But trying to thread that needle is much harder today than ever before. Guys, you always talk, like we were talking with Tress yesterday. It used to be, when, what, why. Now it's why, what, when. And
it was what, like, or excuse me, yeah, when, to your point, Bob, like, do it now. Go do it now.
Now, what are we doing? And then why are we doing it? We'll get to that afterwards. Well, let me explain it later, maybe. Now it's why are we doing it? Then what are we doing? And then when are we going to do it? That's the last element. And not just because I said so. So there's all these different pieces. And I would joke with Berm in Austin because I go, I don't know how else to put this with guys because I go, these guys are tough. You trained them, Schlegel. Like, these dudes
listen,
they've gone through the gauntlet. I go, most people would give up 80, 70% of the way in, 60%.
99% of the population in the United States of America to what I did to these young men from January to the end of June would tap out. I'm just telling you right now, you would. Look at me right now. I'm looking at you and you're
know.
I'm talking about all the people that are watching.
I know.
I would smash, like you would be smashed. You would be doing this even through the warm-up. I'm just telling you, man. It's a fact.
I get it. You understand that. And so how do you translate that into playing, like you said, fast, hard, and violent on the field? And I think the element that you're talking about is like with a high degree of emotion. It's got to be insanely personal to you. And for fear of not making a mistake, there's got to be great communication. There's to be great trust with everybody. I'm speaking more the defensive side. There's got to be an attitude. And that's where I think that taking it personal is really important. And so you've got to understand that. And, that's what, when Tress asked us yesterday during a podcast, which is going to be released Michigan week, he's like, what did you learn with Ohio State? And I'm like, well, it's different every year because your role on the team is different. The team is, going to be changing. The dynamics change. And that's what my senior year was like. It was really the leadership piece. And so like learning how to be that leader, the oldest guy in the room, sacrificing maybe a little of what you have done, helping bring young guys along, and then providing whatever the team needs you to provide. And a lot of times for me, that was always emotional energy. It was a similar situation for you. That's not the case for everybody. But some of these guys have to figure that out of the team needs your emotional energy. They've got to have it. Like, and that's especially on defense. It's such a critical factor. And how do you bring that out? And I joke and I call it like shankability, where you can be the greatest dude 99% of the time. You can play 75 plays and be awesome. But 2 plays during that game, your teammates may want to grab you so you don't get a personal foul. And you're always on the edge of the line. You're a great dude. But if someone's going to step to you and your family, without hesitation, as soon as they are in danger, you'll hit them with a shiv. Not even a question, because that's just what it takes. You'll be willing to do whatever it takes to make sure. And so that is like trying to quantify that is really hard. Trying to understand that, trying to get guys to let that loose. And the thing that my dad would always tell us, and I'm sure your father probably echoed the same thing as a high school coach. He goes, when you're done playing, whether it's high school, college, NFL, whenever that is, much of what happens on the football field, you'll get put in prison for. They will lock you up because it's not okay. And so, but it's okay to do it out here. So make sure you get it all out of your system by the time that you're done. And I guess like that was preached so much. It's like, dude, I'm going to make sure I'm empty in the chamber every single time. Squeeze that sponge because you never know ultimately when it's coming back. All right.
Great comments, everybody. Great comments. You know what, though? Like a lot of people don't know. Questions. It's okay, man. I like it. We like this, guys. Just so you know, we like it.
We got Bill Bender coming up. First, take a deep breath. We got export. For parents and athletes, you want to protect what matters most. Protect your brain, protect your mouth. Designed by professional NHL team dentists, worn by professional athletes. Export guards are scientifically tested. They help you with the high-impact hits, protect your brain and your grill. Export mouth guards, you got 3 layers of advanced protection, the patented use of carbon fiber. They 3D print these things right into your grill to help handle those impacts, better protection, better performance, max comfort, clear communication. So you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Exportguards.com/Bobby. You get 15% off this fine piece of safety equipment. Export, protect what matters most. Bill Bender of the Sporting News coming up next.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. Now we're pleased to welcome on, as we do every Tuesday, our guy Bill Bender from the Sporting News. Oh, goodness, Bill. Sorry I got to you a little late. There was a spirited discussion going on. You live in the Central Ohio area. You understand the passion that Buckeye fans have. No win is probably ever good enough. And I understand the Nebraska game was pretty close, but your general thoughts coming out of that game about Ohio State, about Nebraska, of what you kind of think they both are heading into the next week of the season?
You can feel the pressure on Ohio State right now. It's tangible everywhere, like living here, being around it every day. And there's so much pressure on this team in this moment. And I think they just need to relax a little bit. I know that's a cliche, but you know, the sky isn't falling. They won the game. They always take everybody's best shot. The running game would be the big issue right now. And no, that's no secret. I mean, you guys could probably tell me more about what you're seeing from a X's and O's standpoint up front, but the running game wasn't there. They only had 2 runs of 10 yards or more. They weren't pushing Nebraska off the point of attack. And quite frankly, if Will Howard doesn't play as well as he played, they might not have won that game. But the pressure is very palpable around here. And what are we doing that for? Because in this era, you have room to make a few mistakes in the regular season. You want to be at your best by the time you get to the playoff.
Bill, you brought up a great point, and it's really, as you talked about the pressure, you know, how do people deal with the pressure? How do you just let it rip? Especially when you go into the season and everybody is like, this is the best roster that's ever been assembled. The expectation is to win them all, though that's a false reality, right? Bob, you and I were talking about this about the NFL, and you lose, you know, a lot of games in the NFL and can still be really good. And it's just that expectation of being perfect when nobody's perfect. And I automatically got a message in my mind that I would share with them. I'm not going to share it right this second. But I would say this, Bill, besides also the running game, it's also the third down conversion game, which starts on first and second down and running the football. How do you feel right now about Will Howard? Because I'm in your boat. The guy goes 13 of 16. If what he did against Oregon, like if you were a year removed, you'd have said that would have been a performance I wanted. He delivered. You got Nebraska, goes down there, 75 yards, scores a touchdown, 13 of 16, 221, had the 1 pick, 3 touchdowns. How are you feeling about Will Howard right now on this football team?
He's been on point. He's offered a little bit in running game, and the big response drive. Nebraska takes the lead, and what does Will Howard do? He takes the team right down the field, makes a good throw to Judkins for the touchdown, and he deserves credit for that, right? And I know you guys played there, so you know the pressure, and that I would compare Ohio State football to like Seinfeld or some huge TV show when we were growing up, that every episode was graded on a curve. Just like every game is graded on maybe an unfair curve with Ohio State. You're not just expected to win. You're expected to win by a bunch of points. You're expected to, you know, look good doing it. And on that off chance where, oh, by the way, Nebraska just got their tail kicked the week before. So, you know, those 18 to 22-year-old kids were getting challenged and about their manhood and can you go play at Ohio State? And I thought they actually played an outstanding game. Even Dylan Raiola, who hung in there against the defense that, what'd you say, Schleg's 13 tackles for loss?
13 tackles for loss.
Made some big boy throws in that game for a freshman in that stadium. So just get used to that. I mean, that's going to happen. So I just think this idea of the pressure on Ohio State and how palpable it is, and I'm trying to think, well, why? I mean, it's still a very good football team, capable. Every top 5 team, in my opinion, has a flaw. And with Ohio State right now, it is probably they're going to have to figure out the offensive line if they want to make this run.
So looking at their opponent for next week, and probably there's equal parts pressure on James Franklin, I'd say, to get this done with some of his failings. I want to say he's 1-8 or 1-9 against Ohio State with his lone win coming in 2016. He has not fared well. This is a huge game for them. It's going to be in Happy Valley. It's big noon. Game day is going to be there. Has all the surround pomp around it. Drew Aller, it could be out, might play. I mean, no one really knows. They'll prepare for both quarterbacks who are kind of wildly different. But they're up a point heading into the fourth quarter. And if not for a pick six, I mean, I think there's a good chance Wisconsin maybe even potentially upsets them. And so as you look at that and you kind of get a feel for it, like, what does Penn State have coming into this? Like, where are they at?
Well, they have just as much pressure. And 1-9, and you go back to that 2016 game they won, where you could make the argument if Ohio State doesn't try a field goal there and it doesn't get blocked and Grant Haley returns it, Penn State would be 0-10 against Ohio State. So, and they've had some close calls where they've blown leads late in the fourth quarter. And I do think it's a little bit of a disservice that this game isn't at night, honestly, from the Penn State side. This shouldn't be played at noon. This should be under the lights, have the Big Ten, let them have that. Right now, the best primetime game this week is probably South Carolina and Texas A&M. Come on, man. Put the Big Ten in that window. That's ridiculous. And, well, and then you mentioned Drew Aller. That's the big piece for me, because I think with Drew Aller, Penn State can challenge the Buckeyes down the field, or at least try to. With Bo Pribula, the game plan is completely different. He's more of a running quarterback. Not more of, but he can do that. I make the comparison to him. Buckeye fans might remember it's a little bit like Trace McSorley, who hasn't played nearly as much. So that's what you would be dealing with there.
Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be a defensive battle. Is that what you're saying, Bill? It's going to be a defensive game?
Well, I mean, yeah. And for Ohio State, you got to come in and try to knock that out early. Remember, they had a tight game there, I think it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago, where they got in the fourth quarter. It was close. And then I kind of, whatever analogy you want to use, remember Ohio State hit the turbo button. And that was the JTT game where he went off, and they showed Penn State what a fourth quarter looks like. So it'll be an even game. They've got to play into the emotion. You got to play against that crowd. But again, Will Howard played well at Oregon. He played well. We're focusing on his slide at the end of the game. The rest of the game, it was pretty good. Remember, they came out, scored on the first drive. If he plays well and they run the ball behind him a little bit, and they have the X factor just like last year, because Marvin Harrison was the best player on the field last year. Pretty sure Jeremiah Smith's the best player on this field Saturday.
Yeah, they do have an eraser, which obviously helps a lot. I know it's a noon game. It's not the whiteout at night. Schlegel and I played in those. You've covered them.
That.
I mean, it's a dynamic environment. It probably plays to Ohio State's advantage a little bit, that it's not going to be a night game where it's as loud as you're going to find. But, as you look at this, how much do you think that crowd does play into this game in that road environment?
Oh, it's huge. That's one of the few places where you can, again, you talk about, you can feel it. You can feel that home field advantage when they've got that place rocking and it's all white and, they got the music playing, and their mascot's weird looking, but still
so weird.
It looks like a teddy bear of some sort that, it definitely is, but they definitely bring it, and their fans bring it. The traffic's always bad going in there as a writer. But it's a really big road environment. And for Ohio State, so important, because if you win this game, you have some leeway. I mean, because I think whether you're Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, or Indiana's a little bit of a more nuanced conversation, but those other three, 10-2 or better, you're in. 11-1 or better, you're definitely in. You're probably at least hosting a first-round home game.
I'm just thinking about this game, Bill. What do you think the Buckeyes have to do to go into Unso-Happy Valley and get the dub this week?
Don't turn the ball over. And we mentioned establish Quinshad Judkins in this game. He didn't get going against Nebraska. Get a couple second level runs with him. Depending on the quarterback, I am interested to see what the Ohio State, how they would attack if Bo Pribula started. So I'm guessing, you load up the box a little more, let Sonny Styles come in there, make some plays, and have Caleb Downs try to. I mean, the only matchup, and you guys are linebackers, and you could probably tell me more, again, not to deflect this, but Tyler Warren is a mismatch for just about anybody. They find ways to get him the ball in the backfield, in the short passing game, in the seam. So I'm wondering who they're going to put him, how they're going to mask their coverage to cover what is a classic throwback, old school tight end that I really love to watch as a player.
He's very good. I mean, I think he's probably the most dynamic player on their offense, and they utilize him in a multitude of ways, and leave it to Kolanicki. I mean, I think he's kind of a product of that. He would be good without him, but with him, this offensive innovation, I think, helps feature Ty Warren a lot more. And there's been times he's been the best player on the field. So they will definitely have their work cut out for them trying to slow him down, Bill. I'm going to put a pin in this. We've talked a lot about Ohio State, Penn State. Want to come back, talk about the broader slate, what you learned from last week, moving on to this next week here in college football. Stay tuned for more Bill Bender here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like. I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
Welcome back into the show. Still here with our guy, Bill Bender, the Sporting News. Give him a follow on X at BillBender92. Bill, a lot of other nice games went on. We talked a lot about Penn State, Wisconsin, what that looked like, Ohio State, obviously Nebraska. But looking across the broader slate, what were some of your takeaways from this nice big week? I guess it's week 9 already in college football.
One of the things that we were told about the 12-team college football playoff race is that the regular season will be so much more exciting in November. And there's something to that from the fact that we have 24 schools in the power conferences, when you include Notre Dame, that have 2 losses or less. And I think maybe we get a 3-loss team in, maybe not, I'm not sure. But that was what I felt over the weekend, is like, don't mess up. Texas A&M took a huge step forward by beating LSU and throwing Marcel Reed in there. And it was kind of the weekend of the backup quarterback. Taven Jackson at Indiana has a big game. Bo Pribula steps in on the road and wins at Wisconsin. And Marcel Reed changed the dynamic of A&M's offense against LSU, down 10, 3 rushing touchdowns, and wonderful performance. They deserve top 10 billing. And if you look at the schedule, there is a chance that A&M and Texas play at the end of the season in a battle of 10-1 teams. That would be something to watch.
Yeah, that's bumpy. Hey, you see their thing on, it was them coming out of the stadium, and listen, you're right. People were talking about like the juice in the stadium, and we got to get that. And what I appreciate from schools that aren't at the caliber of Ohio State, they still got really good engagement, but that entrance of theirs is really cool. Talk about the Texas Vandy game. So again, kind of similar thing, though Vandy is better than a lot of people expected. 25th of the country. Texas goes on the road, right? I don't even think they scored in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. Vandy comes back, makes it close. Kind of indicative, right? Kind of this similar, a lot of similarities between what happened this last week with Ohio State.
Right. And Texas, you would have, had they been impressive there, they probably leapfrog Ohio State in the polls. But a couple things here. Quinn Ewers, he's a starter. Arch Manning's not going to start outside of Texas, maybe having a Jalen Tua-like moment in the playoff where Quinn Ewers would come out. He plays well. He throws a couple touchdowns, had a couple interceptions. It's what he does. The bigger problem for Texas was the penalties. 107 yards of penalties in that game. And anytime you have over 100 yards in penalties in a football game, it complicates what you're trying to do. I don't know how many times I looked up. It'd be first down, nice run, and you just kind of see the camera panning back with the ref out there. So they're going to need to clean that up as they get ready for, the bye week, Florida game. They're still in good shape, but I'm in the minority. I don't think there's a controversy with Ewers and Manning. I think Ewers is the guy, and that's what they're going to do.
Watching Indiana rough up Washington the way they did, I mean, we believe they're real now. I mean, they've been certified, they've been stamped, and do you see them making their way in the top 10 here in a week or two?
I mean, this is a big 2-week stretch for them ahead of the Ohio State game, because I think it's a tricky game at Michigan State, just because Michigan State, they have flaws. They have a young quarterback that turns it over a little bit, but they are capable of having a physical running game, and they're not bad up front. So Can they slow down Indiana? Does Curtis Rourke get back? And then the Michigan game will be very visible for them. And I don't know what Michigan won't be ranked for that game. Michigan could potentially be 5-4. But as a program, when you've beat a program, the other team, as few times as Indiana has over the years, that's a huge game in Bloomington. So if they can get through those two and get to 10-0, I've been asking people this question all week. Say Ohio State beats them by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and it just doesn't go their way. Indiana 11-1, Alabama 10-2. I know what the committee should do, but I have a feeling I know what the committee will do in that situation if it was for the last spot.
When you look at this AP poll, something I've just been thinking about, I definitely didn't come up with this. I probably heard it from somebody. You put, I think they said this literally, you put the Michigan brand on the IU brand. They're ranked way up there, right? Now in their 13th. It's kind of the same. Like you look at Texas with still in Tennessee ahead of a Big 12 champion, and then even an SEC foe in Texas A&M who hasn't lost, and they're 10th, right? And then all the other brands and the Pitts of the world undefeated. LSU only dropping back, even though you lost the big time in the second half versus Texas A&M, only slipped down to 16. So you mean to tell me like you're ahead of, Pitt, or you're on the cusp of that? Like, what do you feel? Do people's optics of the AP poll and whoever makes that has to change a little bit to the product that's on the field and not necessarily the brands?
Well, I am a very big believer in the polls do matter. It drives me nuts when people say they don't matter, because in college football, it's so special. Is like, why do the polls matter so much? It's like, this game matters because you get to hold up the number one when you win it all. And when you beat number one and when you do the field storming. But to your point, we do look at the laundry a little too much. If Indiana were wearing Michigan uniforms, they'd probably be ranked 5 or 6. And just because the way that they're winning with the running game, especially with Curtis Rourke on the field, because he's an NFL quarterback. He may be a day 2 guy, but he's going to play in the league. And again, Pitt's facing that. SMU's going to face that. And what I just said in that last question about Indiana and Alabama, is the committee at the end of the year going to do the right thing or going to do the brand thing? And I say that because what if the decision's Iowa State or Tennessee? Those kind of things. BYU, another team, we might not love the unis. We should, because they're very cool uniforms. But we should be concentrating on what they're doing on the field. And even in the Big 12, they've been pretty special.
Is Alabama fixed, Bill?
If they run the ball like they did. Right? When you average over 7 yards per carry, you get back to the basics of running the football. Missouri was limping into that game. There's no question. I really respect Brady Cook for trying to play through the injuries, but they stepped into a buzzsaw there. But if Jalen Milroe has that running game around him and the defense is creating turnovers, which they've done the last 2 weeks, I think they have a really good shot of going 10-2. That now a true elimination game, not this week, next week. We'll definitely talk about it on here next week. LSU Alabama is a real-time elimination game down in Baton Rouge next week.
Yeah, big time. And I'll probably be at night too, which they played really well at home. What do we find out about Notre Dame? I know they're playing Navy. Navy had 6 freaking turnovers, could have had 8, but still undefeated. What are we learning about Notre Dame as we head into November? As Bobby alluded to, is for contenders.
They got to win big though to keep that beauty contest going. They can't lose again. I still think they're in at 11-1. Love the running game. Riley Leonard's coming around. And they're winning with defense. And, as a history nerd of the game, 100 years later, the fact that they might play an unbeaten Army team is going to be pretty cool.
And finally, you mentioned that A&M LSU game. Like we talked more on the A&M side. LSU had slowly crept back up into the top 10 after losing to USC to start the season. But, kind of fall apart defensively in that second half. And they had looked pretty good. And, we kind of championed that defense even without Harold Perkins, how good they were. And then it kind of just – and I understand you'd make a quarterback change and that may change what you're doing, but I mean, is LSU to you still a team that's maybe not just a playoff contender, but do they have any ability to maybe make a run in the playoff?
Well, they got to fix the running game on a week-to-week basis. Caden Durham couldn't get going. Garrett Nussmeier had a couple great throws and a couple bad turnovers. And Brian Kelly's starting to face some pressure now because in these ranked games, they've struggled. So, again, that's the backdrop for Alabama. They come down to Tiger Stadium. LSU obviously only 1 loss under Kelly the last 3 years. But you're getting into a wonderful game with Alabama, where typically that's for 4-team playoff positioning. Now it's going to be a little bit of an elimination game. I can't wait to see it.
I will. Bill, thank you so much. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Great conversation as always. See you next week.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thank you so much.
That is the great Bill Bender, Sporting News. Go check him out. Does a great job putting stuff together there for everyone. So make sure you check it out. All of it's usually linked through X at Bill Bender 92. We got some great stuff here. Some nice little nuggets we're about to drop on you. Headlines are coming up next. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby Carpenter. I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Affinity Whole Health, the leaders in the testosterone replacement industry. I've been on a testosterone replacement program for a few years right now, and I've got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer. Affinity Whole Health has allowed me to be the best version of myself, both mentally and physically. I loved how easy it was to get started. I booked my free consultation, met with my prescriber, checked my numbers, and Affinity Whole Health designed a program that was customized to fit my needs. So I'm telling you guys, if you have low energy, you want to get rid of that spare tire around the waist or take it to the next level in the bedroom, Affinity Whole Health is the place to get started. So don't wait any longer. 5 minutes of your time, book your free consultation. You're going to love the way you feel. All right, welcome into Headline Schlegs, and we've got some good ones here. They're brought to you by our friends over at Affinity Whole Health. We've got personalized treatment plans. They're going to help you feel better. Whether you're struggling with, you got weight loss issues, maybe you got low energy, maybe your muscles falling apart, poor sleep, maybe you just don't have the juice to do the things you want to do. You go out and play with your kids, play football, whatever it might be. Affinity can help you with all of it. They've got expert guidance. They'll develop a customized plan to help fit your needs. Maybe you want to put some muscle mass on. Maybe you want to have a little more energy. Maybe you want to lose some weight with their semaglutide. They've got it all there for you, Schleg. So they got offices in Columbus and Cleveland, Chicago, and Indy. They're everywhere for you. So get started on your journey with your free consult going to affinityWholehealth.com. That is affinityWholehealth.com. All right, Schlegs.
Give them to me.
Here we go. We're gonna start off with Arvell Reese. There was some good news that came out of today. There was a targeting call on Arvell Reese. I think it kind of woke the crowd up, got the team going. Everybody was juiced up. Ryan Day, my goodness. I mean, he had some shank ability. It looked like he wanted to stab the refs. Thankfully to the great Quinn Temple for showing his left tackle prowess and keeping him away. However, he was ejected. The penalty stood, and he was set to miss the rest of this game. If you want to throw this up, Pat, that they submitted to the Big Ten. Big Ten took it. They looked at it with the NCAA, and apparently, Schlegs, he's going to be good to go, and he's going to be able to play. So Arvell Reese will be able to play not just in the second half, but in the entire game.
Yes,
against Penn State, which is for a guy who's playing about 30%, 35% of the linebacker snaps. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, Veli. Yeah, they're going to need him in this game. And here's the thing, though, even on that hit, right? And then there's like, oh, that was targeting and whatever. No, I truly believe like he came on with his right forearm into the guy's chest. He didn't like run through the guy. It wasn't his shoulder. The guy was going down like this, dropping his head, right? And he happened to go kind of right through his shoulder, then through his face mask. Think about how that feels on your forearm. Dude's body's iron. Listen, real facts, like Arvell like can bring it. All right. So I'm happy that he was not suspended for the Penn State game. That'd have been a huge loss and have been truly unfair for the young man. I'm happy that they overturned this, though it sucks in the immediacy of the game. Happy he's going to be back for Penn State.
Yeah, it stinks in the moment. I think it got everybody going a little bit, and he's been a big piece of it. He's got a little bit of edge. He's got some of that attitude.
No, he's got some edge, man.
He does, and he's a good young player. He's
Glenville,
Gville, what Tarblooders, Schlegs. He's out
there.
Tarblooders,
baby.
He's only getting better. The thing is, too, like he's getting better with every rep. Like he's a young dude and very raw when he got here, so he's going to be a big addition. You're going to need to pack all your LBs because you got to make sure you can stop the run game there, and you got to make sure you can keep your quarterback hemmed in. And guarding Ty Warren, I mean, I'm not sure how they'll do it. Reese is a tall athlete. Obviously, Styles is a tall athlete. Like, you've got some guys that can stick with him, but we'll see what happens. And then as a guy who like you said, people were disappointed in. Maybe he thought he'd be better his senior year. I think he's playing well. He was battling, some injuries earlier in the season, missed a little bit of time. But I thought Cody Simon's been doing great. And he was awarded, Schlegs, as we toss this up. He was defensive player of the game, the silver ball of the game. And I think that was appropriately earned given what he's done out there for the squad.
Yeah, no doubt. When, I'm just looking at the comments, like win next week, that's what it is, right? Hey, you played great in this game. He played with emotion and fire. He played fast. Hey, player of the game, boom, on to the next. Let's go. And that's the other thing, too, that I think people miss. Urban talked about it all the time. Yeah, celebrate the victories, man. Like you're winning in college football. Big time win, guys. Good. Let's celebrate. Then we'll go on to the next tomorrow. But, like, we got to win. Cody played very well, very well. Deserved this player of the game.
Yeah, he did a great job. Like you mentioned, all of his tackles, Schlegs, some TFLs. They were running those screens. He was hawking them down. I mean, Cody Simon, I don't think is quite the athlete of Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, but he's incredibly smart. He's heady. He's a leader out there. I want to get him for some juice to make him going. And then this is the last piece. And, Bill touched on this. Like you're going to have the best player out there on the field. And that best player is going to be Jeremiah Smith. And when you have a guy like this who's been putting up these type of numbers, you need to utilize him and find ways to get him the rock. So throw this up here real quick. Jeremiah Smith has scored a touchdown every game this season. I believe he's now tied with Chris Carter for the freshman touchdown receiving record at 8. I think he blows this thing away. It wouldn't shock me, Schlegs, if he comes out of the season with 10 to 15, depending on how many games they play.
Yeah, he's a special human, right? He's one of those freaks. And it's funny, I just again read the comments and
the comments are always better than the story.
I do. I like the comments, but you also got to understand why we talk this and focus so much on the running game, because it does open up the passing game. Because what are you going to do, right? In order to stop the run, I'm going to have to bring a safety down. Now I got cover 3. The seams, like that one that he hit wide open for 60 yards, straight down the seam. Why? We're emphasizing on stopping the run, right? Yep. Then you had a post. Boom, guys are playing high and wide because they're going to bracket him. Boom, now he's open. Carnell. There's reasons behind certain things are open, and there's reasons why certain things don't continue to go back to. And now sometimes, though, he's also that break glass one that we had with Marvin Harrison Jr., where it's like, when all else fails, just throw the ball up to 4, right? So what a great talent. Grateful that he's a Buckeye. Also a guy that came in, handles his business, doesn't talk.
Yeah.
You would look at Jeremiah Smith when he's practicing and be like, where's the fire? Here's his fire. He just plays. Let's talk about AJ Hawk, somebody that you and I talked to. AJ's a little bit.
Stop that real quick.
Well, then.
We're going to get to that in Tailgate Talk.
Oh, I like it. But anyway, side nugget, Jeremiah Smith. Let's go.
Exactly. Great player. And we'll get to the fire. We'll talk about that next. More questions coming from you in Tailgate Talk here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
Building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories. And bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, welcome in to Tailgate Talk. Tailgate Talk is brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck. Go ahead to realtruck.com. Super truck up, Jeep, Bronco, all of it. And right now they got a special offer for you. Go to Tailgate Truck or go to realtruck.com. If you spend $100 souping up the interior, the exterior, whatever it is, Use promo code Bobby on checkout. You're going to get spend at least $100. You're going to get a free hat. They're going to take care of you. Do some great things. So a little gift for you. Maybe you get some gifts for your loved ones out there coming up this holiday season. They can take care of you. Bring your truck to life like Schlegel and I did. Realtruck.com. Spend $100. You get the free hat. They got tons of stuff to choose from. All right,
this
Schlegel.
is what you do. You buy yourself $100 worth of stuff, and then you give the hat to somebody else. How much? And then that way your wife's like, what did you get them? That hat. That was $100. Charge it to winning.
Okay. Charge it to winning. You keep going long, so you keep crushing down this segment, and we need to get more stuff in here because this is the one you're going to want to hear, Schlegs. This is from Brian. We're going to throw this up in response to yesterday. Zach Bourne brought it up, I think, on one of the shows with Austin. Starting to see it myself. Where's the fire? Put Schlegs on the sideline, wake folks up, chew them up, spit them out when they miss an assignment. Pick your head up and those around you. I don't like the word soft.
Go ahead, Bob. You start.
Well, so Zach was talking, and there didn't seem to be necessarily a lot of energy on the sideline. Yelling at guys, I've never said is energy. Like that, the coaches yelling there, and believe me, tomorrow we're going to get to the comments on YouTube. So, guys, like, subscribe, leave the comments. There is a plethora of them, and I was reading through them earlier. Tomorrow will be a straight comments day from YouTube, and I appreciate that. So we'll get to all of those, but there needs to be like an energy around it, and that's what I was saying. Like some of that comes on the field with confidence, but there does need to be, and you can't always ask. There's certain guys that's just not what they are, and that's to the comment that was made to me where I was saying there some of the guys are a little introverted. That's fine. Like it's not a big deal. As you're now make your point about AJ.
Well, I mean, like you look at AJ Hawk, like AJ was never a talker, though. AJ flipped off his coach one time in the field or whatever. Like AJ just played. Like AJ played with emotion without showing emotion. When did AJ get emotional? When you took his helmet away. Remember, Bob? Like his helmet would come down, kept smashing his deal because he refused to put air in it. So they're like, guess what? That's got to heal up. We're going to take your helmet. He was going to kill every athletic trainer. I think Bob and Doug, he was headhunting for them. He just wanted to be out there with his teammates, but he wasn't one of a trash talker. It was, if guys are talking stuff, he would just get him like, come on, next one, let's go. I didn't talk a lot of trash because I was making a lot of calls. Like, I don't want to spend my energy. I just want to play with my pads. Everybody's a little bit different, and that's why it works. Like you were an energy giver all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like you were looking at the crowd. It was so fun. I vividly remember like you looking at people like, get up. Like there's this guy sitting in a chair, get up, like, let's go. But then we had fun together when we played, and everybody's taking this, right? And they're looking at, we got to go get in a fight, as opposed to I'm looking at like,
have fun,
like cheer on your teammate, have fun, Purple Cobra style, right? Like, I mean, you used to dry hump dudes like on the bottom, and I would just sit there and laugh at stuff, man. Like, what is going on here? Buckeyes, right? And like Top Gun high fives after stuff. And here's the other thing that I want to say this and preface this. I think when former players make comments, like as we get older, Bob, we become better. And I am one that has not.
I never missed a single tackle, Coach.
I regress. Like I vividly remember missing a wide open field tackle in the Northwestern game. I remember missing a sack on Vince Young. I know what I was. It's also why I became a strength coach, because I needed somebody to tell me what I needed to do to be better, to have a longer career, to add more value while still having the intangibles that made me who I needed to be on the field for my team. There's a lot of nuances in there, but let's do this. And so I always like to look at attitude and effort within the game, between the lines. How are guys flying? Look, when you judge a defense, look for hats around the ball. Is everybody in the picture frame? Right? Like those are the things that show you, are they playing fast, hard, and violent? Are they indicative of people that care? Look at those things. More importantly, are there things we got to correct? Yes. And here's the other thing. All these guys that are former players, you and I included, Bob, that have watched a lot of film, that have been in there, we haven't watched a lot of film in a long time. When's the last time any of these people sat behind an all-22 for your job to dissect exactly what's going on, the different nuances of the game? Because the game has changed a lot.
Yeah.
2005. And since 2014. And since 2019, right? Like 5, 10, it's changed, right? So before you go on all in and this is how we did this and that, be very, very mindful.
I know. And I was probably more of an energy guy. Like I love pumping the crowd. I said, you get to play in front of 105,000 plus, like get them involved. And I always tell a guy, like, get people involved. Like let them see you have fun. Let them see that excitement. You know, AJ was never like outwardly talking trash. I wasn't a trash talker, but I loved it. Like, dude, you're playing at Ohio State. And I think that these guys, there's so much pressure to want to win, want to produce, want to get sacks, especially on the defensive side where you can really be animated because you can move around while they're in formation. So hopefully that starts to come a little bit.
I'm going to break a side nugget too, because there's also comments about guys like praying after the game in Carmen, Ohio, and that people are making a big deal about this stuff. And there's a thing in there, 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. I read that when I was in the league. That's where attack and dominate comes from, just so you guys know. I think that's what has to happen, right? Like you're good. Just go out there and attack and dominate, right? Like the pressure of being perfect. And I also believe that's part of our society with Twitter and Instagram and all these things. Everybody's looking at the false reality of perfection. Everybody out there, you're not perfect. I'm just telling you right now. We're all sinners. We all fall short. You're not as good as you think you are, and you're not as bad as you think you are. So just go out there and let it rip. And I think that's really the message that has to happen, because guess what? You live and die with each other. Go win your one-on-ones, play with great emotion, play with great enthusiasm for each other, right? Freaking all day, leave no doubt, go Bucks. That's really the deal.
All right, we're going to throw this one last one up. So you have one
one
minute to answer this one. It's from Big Bear Dan. I know this will probably not get touched by Schlegel for understandable reasons, but when do we question the strength and conditioning by Marotti, lack of push on our O-line we've had for years, and Fry for the lack of recruiting depth and development? Before you get going, it's 30 seconds. Justin Fry has been here for 3 years. It takes 3 years to develop offensive linemen. There really wasn't a lot of depth. The guys that have been good, he's developed, and they've been ready to go. But it's really hard to get those things done in abbreviated time. He took over an offensive line room that didn't have any depth, so there were no young players to really develop, which is why they've had to go portaling at the beginning. The guys that they have there now, which you can touch on, will be ready to go, but it's the one position that takes more seasoning than any of them. You have 1 minute on the clock. 1
minute on the clock. Here's the deal. All strength coaches, guys, just so you guys know, if you have a high GSF, you're constantly questioning what are the things that you did that could help your guys be successful. Because again, the weight room allows you to go do your craft at a high level. However, your craft is playing football. That's also taught to you. But you're always going to go back and think that. And I will also say this and preface this, and I love Coach Mick. I have been around all over this country. Right? I got products that are in 30 NFL teams and 125 Division I colleges. I can call up all of their head strength coaches. All of them. Guys. And the one guy that I would want to work for, or the one guy that I believe in his program more than anybody, is Mickey Marotti. So does he himself, after a year that doesn't go, or after games that don't go quite the way that you want, you're always constantly self-introspection and evaluating what we could do better. That's part of being elite. I believe in Coach Mick 100%. You guys can question it all you want. That's one area I don't question because I saw it with my eyes. I saw it with my eyeballs. And I was like, holy shit, we're putting 6 pounds of shit in a 3-pound bag. And these dudes love it. They craved it. They showed up. Oh, side nugget. What about NIL and all this? The standard's the standard. You're 1 minute late, 30 minutes prior to the workout. I don't care who you are. Boom, you out. You making it up on Saturday. That's a standard, right? Because I hear people talking about NIL and all this stuff and that. Oh, I'm going to leave you one more side note. You know, parting thoughts. See you.
Parting thoughts up after this. Parting thoughts, Schlegs, go for it.
I would just say this. People And again, all the stuff that when we even talked about Zach, like there was not a knock on Zach. He just made some, I think people took it out of proportion. And just so you guys know too, all the things that Bob and I talk about are things that we would literally say to anybody's face. We're not making, big things here just to make a splash. Like these are real things that we would say directly to people's faces. Now, I would say this. Somebody also talked about NIL and transfers. Guys, I transferred. I was like the OG of the portal. Okay. I left the United States Air Force Academy. There's reasons. A lot of people already know why. It had nothing to do with the military or anything like that. I was probably an asshole and I ended up leaving and God brought me to Ohio State. But here's the thing. Caleb Downs, Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin, Josh Simmons. I'm just naming a few, right? Guys, those guys are playing with a lot of juice and energy. And I would say this, I'm a transfer guy, man, but I bleed scarlet and gray. I love Ohio State. And the way that I watch these guys work in the offseason, the way that I'm watching these guys play, boom, they're doing a great job here. It makes no impact on them that they came in or where they came from. They're Buckeyes, know that.
Buckeyes, we got a lot to get into tomorrow, Schlegs. Man,
I can't wait. This is so fun. And I love all you guys because you guys just got to know. We're just here to kind of educate. And again, our opinions, your opinions, Buckeyes.
Hey, fire some comments off. We love it. It gives us something to talk about. Gets my man Schlegs fired up. He might have an aneurysm, but
I'm okay.
That someone saves him. All right. Stay locked in. Tune in tomorrow, 12:30 live. Bobby Carpenter Show. Ugh.